This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Party Loaded podcast for Wednesday the 16th of May. This is your weekly hit of everything that is great in the world of video games, of which there is quite a bit. And to tell you about it, my name is Luke Retallick. Tonight, partying up with the fantastic Christian and Jam. Hello team, how you doing?
Hello. Hi Luke.
Yeah.
I'm doing good.
I've got equal amount of beans this week as last week, so strap yourselves in and feel the G's. It's going to be a big night.
Oh, no.
Hey, I do want to kick off tonight, though, with a question for each of you, and you may or may not know what I'm talking about when I ask you this. I'll start with you, Christian, because I think there's probably a slightly better chance you will.
Okay.
Do you hear Yanni or Laurel?
Laurel.
Laurel?
It has to be Laurel. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's either, yeah, okay. What do you hear?
I hear Laurel as well, yeah.
Okay, good.
And
so
I
you're
don't
also
understand.
saying-
I just do not understand how anybody else could do. Yeah, Jam, do you know what we're talking about?
I saw some obscure Reddit reference that I ignored. What the hell?
Okay,
It's
so
like it's the new dress. It's the new white or gold or black or blue
But
dress.
it's a sound thing?
It's a sound, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like there's this audio clip that apparently people hear it in different frequencies or levels of bass or something, and some people are hearing the word Yanni, and some people are hearing Laurel. Jam, it's exactly like when we're playing PUBG, and like you say something and you hear what you say to me, and I hear something totally different.
No.
So surely,
You do not turn this into an excuse.
surely with this, it's either
Oh my God.
different speakers processing it differently, or like just something to do with age and people like
Biology,
developing
yeah.
their hearing different. Yeah, but what I haven't heard is two people sitting next to each other hearing it differently. That's what I want to know, because I think it could be something to do with the way the sound's being processed by different sound cards or something like that. I don't know.
It could be. It spun me out, though, because it actually got me thinking about like whether something weird like that, in the way that two people could hear something completely different from the same sound file, whether you could actually gamify that. Like, imagine a video game that actually had a puzzle where the clue was something like that got heard differently by half the audience to the other half, so to guarantee a different experience. How weird would that be?
Interesting.
That would be super bizarre.
There's another interesting sound illusion called the McGurk effect. Anyone listening should look up the McGurk effect, and it trips you out just like this does.
McGurk effect.
Does it involve Murlocs?
No, it involves.
Sounds like it should.
It involves watching somebody make a sound, and then if they move their mouth differently, but make the exact same noise, then you hear it differently, just because the way you see the mouth move. Even though it's the exact
That's
same
amazing.
I wonder if
Yeah, it's
ventriloquists try and employ that one to throw people off. That sounds super
Yeah.
interesting.
sound. Anyway, video games.
Yeah, video games are cool. They're a thing. I'm full of E3 hype at the moment. How are you two feeling about the impending video game Christmas that we got coming up?
It's building. There's a rumbling in the distance.
Yeah.
I don't consider it Christmas. I consider it an announcement of Christmases to come. So slightly less hype. But yes.
It's like this is what you're going to get for Christmas.
I'll freely admit that I very much just sort of, drop my defenses and let myself get caught up in a lot of it, because it's just fun. Like, I know that deep down when you think about it, it's stuff that you're not going to see for quite some time, and, we'll certainly see evidence of that as we talk about some things tonight. But just actually getting excited with a whole bunch of people about stuff is fun in itself, and I really enjoy it. So it's, it's the same sort of thing like when a game first launches, you kind of, feel the need for no practical reason in a lot of cases to buy the game on release day, just so you can be, caught up in the enthusiasm for it, even though you could play the same game several months later. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just one of those things. But I don't know, it gives us a super fun thing to talk about tonight anyway. So later on in the show, we're going to be doing a bit of a look back at E3 of yesteryear, so 2017, and looking at what has actually been delivered in terms of what the expectations set were. So it'll be a good lead into what's coming up this year to see whether, some of the big publishers have actually delivered on their, well, promises are a strong word, but, what they said they had coming last year. So we can look at a bit of that.
It's fine to hold them accountable.
Yeah, I think in some cases, absolutely. We don't want, another Last Guardian situation or, God knows what else. So, yeah. But that is for later in the show. Until then, we have a bunch of stuff we have been playing recently. So why don't we kick off with that? Who wants to lead the recent gaming discussion tonight?
Well, I'll just quickly mention that I wrapped up God of War a couple of nights ago.
Nice, well done.
Yes, got the ending and I've done a few of the post-game things, but not everything post-game, so there's still a bit more for me to explore. But I have sort of reached that point that I reach wherever I finish a game with like post-game content where my enthusiasm wanes rather quickly. Mm-hmm. Like I was so into the game, the ending was really cool, but as soon as I sort of finished the game, suddenly my actual like enthusiasm for going back and ticking off the rest of the boxes just diminishes. So I don't know how much of the post game I'll actually get around to doing, but no, I was really impressed with the game overall. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite games ever. It's probably in my top 20, maybe stretched to top 30.
That's still pretty good.
Really, it's still good. It's still an amazing game, but I think that just partly the hype and the expectations was to blame, where I was expecting it to reach another level toward the end, but it didn't quite blow my mind in any sort of revelatory way. It was just solid all the way through, and yeah, an amazing game, but not like a masterpiece that's in my top 10.
That's fair. I wonder how much of that I can take blame for being so glowing last week about what was going on. I think that in terms of it being genre defining, we can agree that it's not, because there are sort of games of its ilk that have come before. But one thing I am very curious to see if it gets picked up by any other companies moving forward is the single shot camera view for the entire sort of playthrough. Only having the creative sort of transitions a la Resident Evil door opening style to sort of cut between scenes without sort of giving the game away. So
yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
You've seen like a few other games experiment with that, but in first person, like Far Cry never ever leaves its first person for any cutscenes or anything, but it's a bit more ambitious and impressive when it's in third person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think certain games suit it much better than others. Corey Barlog was actually saying that he originally pitched it for one of the Tomb Raider games, but given that the Tomb Raider titles sort of jump from area to area, particularly when they're exploring some of Lara's history, like at her mansion and things like that, it doesn't really work. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. All right, well, cool. I might jump in next then. I want to do a little bit of a follow-up on the Destiny 2 Warmind chat from last week. So I've actually played a whole chunk more of that this week, more than I expected, to be honest. And, Jam, I didn't see you in game, so have you picked any more of that up this week, or have you sort of been caught up in other things?
I thought we were going to play through the rest of the content on stream, and suddenly you were like, I finished it, guys! No.
To be fair, there was
I've
one
only
more
jumped
mission.
back in.
Yeah.
I only jumped back in very briefly to laugh at your emote.
Oh, yes, yeah. So they've added a bunch of fun emotes to the game, one of which is the Negasonic Teenage Warhead one from Deadpool 1, where she's doing the tweet just as they're about to get into the battle against Ajax and stuff. So it's like, the finger up in the air, just tapping away on the phone. It's hilarious. Combined with the selfie emote that Jam has on her character, like actually being able to take an in-game photo. It was pretty fun times.
Was gold.
Yeah, so like I wasn't kind of, massively up on the expansion last week. I was thinking, it's just more of the same, nothing particularly great. But my opinion on that's kind of improved a bit since then, and I've experimented with a lot more of the public content they've put in, and escalation protocol in particular I think is actually a really cool part of the game and very, very challenging. Like it is extremely hard to progress in that thing. It's for anyone who is unaware, escalation protocol is the new sort of horde-based kind of mode that exists as public events on the new Mars environment. And there's a lot of different sort of points on the map where it can happen. And it's key that you really need other players to help you with it, because there's a time limit on defeating each wave that comes through. And you can't even sort of go up to stage 2 of the event without defeating 4 consecutive waves. And apparently this thing has 7 stages to get through. And
what's the reward?
I don't think anyone's actually gotten up to the end of it yet, to be honest. Like I haven't heard any stories of people getting all the way through 7 of them. So There's a lot of articles about actually like trying to get 9 people in the same instance to try and help you beat the thing, because apparently it actually does require a fair bit of coordination and focus to actually get through those waves. But the way that they've built the leveling in sort of post-expansion as well is that it's a lot slower for characters to level up their light and top out at the max level. Like, I don't think anyone's gotten there yet. It's going to take people a considerable number of weeks to do it. So I suspect that a lot of people who are attempting Escalation Protocol aren't super high level yet. They're still sort of midway through the content tiers that they've offered. But yeah, like it's fun. And a lot of the secret stuff that they've hidden around the map are a lot of fun too. Like these little tokens, which for anyone who's played Destiny 1 are kind of like the calcified fragments they had in the Taken King expansion. So they require different types of elemental damage to actually claim each of these little hidden tokens around the map. And you get a couple of sweet rewards at the end of that. Like there's a cool sort of exotic sword and an exotic sparrow, which are actually very neat. I like them a lot. And yeah, there's some other mysteries in the game too that people haven't necessarily worked out. There's actually one that was ARG style and has led people to a real world location where there was like an actual replica of the Valkyrie spear that was stashed in a park somewhere. Like people followed a bunch of coordinates that they deciphered. Yeah, I love that kind of shit. It's great. So, and apparently there's more of that hasn't been sort of puzzled out yet. So it seems that Bungie is sort of getting back to some of their Destiny roots with the level of secrecy around some of the Easter eggs, which I like. I think that kind of thing keeps the game interesting, as long as it's not overdone, which I think it's probably not. It's probably at that just fun level without getting too crazy.
Yes, so, I mean that's interesting and all, but like that thing about finding a spear in a park, whatever, like that doesn't do anything for the longevity of the game or for like my experience playing the game. So
no, I think that one's kind of linked to more just the first person who managed to work it out, and it would provide more information that actually translates to stuff in the game. Like it's not purely just an ARG bonus for one person. It actually has, slightly more lasting effects with what it actually ties to in the game. But I don't know what that is yet because people haven't worked it out. In terms of the longevity, sure. I agree. I think that, people will fall off this expansion pretty quick because they'll run out of stuff to do. The lengthier process of leveling, I think, will help a little bit. But this hasn't reinvented Destiny 2. Like, there's no way you can say that. I think it may keep people buzzed a little bit longer than last time, but it depends on where you're at with the game and what else is distracting you at the time, because the big exodus we saw to Monster Hunter Worlds, that was a thing that was related to that game releasing, and who's to say that there's not going to be something around the corner in the next month that again will just grab a whole bunch of people's attention and Destiny won't get a look in. So yeah, timing's a factor, I think, at the end of the day. But I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to play a bit more, and I actually want to get up to the level where we can try the new raid lair content, and I think it's probably going to take a little while to do that because it's not super entry level at the moment. Which
I've heard that's super hard.
It's a bit frustrating. Apparently, the first team that actually managed to beat it took them 7 hours. But of course, that's also working out puzzles. So once that information becomes a bit more commonly distributed, it won't necessarily take people that long to puzzle stuff out. But I don't know. I still want to get in and experience it because it's a big part of the content, and missing out on that seems like a waste of effort. So, but yeah, that's Destiny. Speaking of shooters, Jam, I want to give you just a moment to crow because I think you probably earned this one. So we did share this on the Twitter and the Facebook today. So you had a bit of a star moment in Overwatch this week.
I did.
Tell everybody all about it.
It's not incredibly magical, but I played with Ollie Mimo and another friend or two the other night, several nights ago. Mayhem was in the roster for, what's it? I can't remember the word. Arcade.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun. And so every day since then, I've just been jumping in really quickly to see if it's back in the roster. And if it's not, I'll just I'll play one quick, match just for funsies. And I had this just amazing moment in Eichenwald where the other team had halted our payload right on the corner of the bridge. And as a rooster, I got my little gravity thing just perfectly placed to pull all 4 of them off and into the void. And I was stunned, and then I was yelling, and my sister was telling me off because she could hear me from the other end of the house. But it was glorious, and it's up on the tweets.
It was one of the smoothest looking quad kills I've seen, so well done. That was good.
The placement was perfect, guys. It had to be just high enough so that they'd go over the lip, but without losing the hook, and then it had to be just the right distance to get all 4 of them because they weren't all in one spot.
Yeah, you still got to give a shout out to the opposing team though for being dumb enough to have 4 of them that close. That was not a great move.
Hey, I mean, They, fairly enough, did not rate my skills that highly. I was surprised. They were surprised. Everyone was surprised. It was so great. And then we lost, and I didn't give a shit at the end. I was like,
matter.
come on, play the game. Yeah.
That's not a loss. That's not a moral loss, at least.
So, I love jumping in. Mayhem was amazing. They've balanced Doomfist, so it didn't feel like we were just getting, stomped on constantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's every bit as fun as I remember it from before he popped in, but it's only popping up sort of, I don't know, I'm assuming once a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're rotating out that extra game each day into a different mode, and it's disappointing because it's what draws me back. So,
Yeah.
Just quickly before we move on to the news, I was playing around today with the Magic the Gathering Arena. I finally got sent my closed beta key for that. So I've already played about an hour or so of it so far, but for anyone who doesn't know, this is like Magic the Gathering's first real online version. But they've had like Magic the Gathering Online before, but it was a pretty crappy, ugly looking interface that was never really too popular except with like the hardcore.
Otherwise known as Modo. Well, I think one of the issues with that is that it could actually have the financial component in it too, so a lot of people had invested in card collections, so it's kind of hard to migrate to something new, but yeah.
It was, yeah, but I remember trying to play around with it back when I was into the physical Magic the Gathering for the 6 months or so I was, and I was immediately turned away just by the like Windows 95 looking interface.
Yeah.
So the Magic Arena is much slicker. Doesn't have quite the polish of Hearthstone, but it's nearly there. It's really nice fully like sound effects, interesting game boards and things like that. And it is still the beta, so they don't have the real money like purchases, but you get a bunch of packs thrown at you to start with, and then I just tried jumping into the constructed play with one of their pre-made deck recipes that they just put together for you, and I lost 4 games in a row with their deck recipe, and I was kind of getting a bit bummed because I just getting stomped. So I just opened up the collection and put together a random deck of like Merfolk, just put together a green-blue deck with some Merfolk in it, and then won my like first 2 games with that. So I think it speaks pretty poorly of the deck recipes they give you. But I'm definitely going to be playing around with it a bit more. I was kind of shocked when after my wins and I'd gotten a couple of gold rewards, I had 750 like gold, like currency, and then I went to buy some packs, and it's like 1 pack is 1,000 gold. I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of in the Hearthstone frame of mind where 1 pack was 100 gold. Yeah. So it's kind of, the economy is a bit strange. There were 1,000 gold for 1 pack. Doesn't sound right to me. So I don't know whether that's anything they're going to change. Even just scaling the gold down, just make it so it's 100 and just give me 10 times as little. But it just feels a bit weird.
It's one thing I've noticed about a lot of Japanese collectible card games where like the values used on the cards are like in the tens of thousands, because and the justification that I often hear is that just because they culturally like big numbers, like it demonstrates power. I was like, but you just knock the zeros off and it means the same thing. So
I was like, the entire Disgaea RPG series is built around that concept of big numbers are fun. Yeah. So there's definitely a thing.
Big numbers are dumb in that context, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
I'll probably have more to say about that in the coming weeks when I sink my teeth into it a bit more.
All right. Sounds good. All right, well, some fun news to cover tonight. I want to kick off with one that has been following on from last week, where we talked about the leaks at Walmart Canada about some of the stuff that was potentially coming close to E3. One of which, of course, was the reveal that Rage 2 was on the way from Bethesda, and they handled the leak admirably with sort of playing around with it via their social media accounts, and they've continued to do so in the week since we last recorded, which is great. I really do love Bethesda's sense of humor about all this stuff. I think they cannot have done it any better than they currently did. So, but it does make me question how much of the leak was actually like E3 stuff versus things that maybe they were actually getting ready to reveal prior to E3, because it seems like they were ready to act, basically, because they have now released not only a sort of theme trailer for Rage 2, they've also now released a gameplay trailer for the game. And I don't know how you guys feel, but the theme trailer looked kind of cool. It was like a Mad Max meets Borderlands meets an acid trip kind of,
It's just pink Mad Max, really. It's
yeah.
Mad Max with pink on it.
It looked like Mad Max on a color run, essentially, just getting like paint exploded on them. Yeah. But then they dropped the gameplay trailer, and when I saw that and realized what it potentially meant for the game in terms of possibilities, I started to get very, very excited. So to put this in perspective, Bethesda have partnered with Avalanche, who are actually the company behind the actual Mad Max video game.
Just Cause games before that.
Yeah, Just Cause as well. So, they're big scale sort of, vehicle combat shooter, large scale destruction. That's their thing. And this seems like a perfect fit for a studio that has that as their MO. But
and then with id Software's gunplay as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they can combine all those things, those are some of my favorite things about first-person shooters, as a genre. So they have the potential to really nail this. And Rage 1, as I recall, was not a terrible game. Like, it suffered from a couple of noticeable flaws, like the story being one of them, because the ending was absolute rubbish. But the environments for the game were quite a step forward at the time. Like, they were, treading new ground in terms of some of the detail and the rendering. The gameplay itself was
textures,
okay.
they called it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, new textures. And I don't know. I think that it was a game that probably could have done a lot better, but it was a step in the right direction. They just didn't go far enough. But let's see what Rage 2 brings. What did you guys think of all of that? Are you excited? It's going to be way off at least. I don't know.
It looks fun. I want to see more. I'm hoping we see more in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks fun. I'm really excited by the Avalanche Studios and id Software with Bethesda team up. The actual aesthetic of the game, the whole Borderlands Mad Max thing, that's actually maybe the least exciting thing for me, because that aesthetic I think is a bit done with Mad Max and Borderlands and a couple other things. I don't know. I'm not into that sort of junkyard apocalypse stuff so much, but I think that the gameplay will be super solid. So I'm excited for it because of that.
Yeah, I think they've done the right thing with the environments as well. Like, it doesn't look like it's just going to be sort of out in the desert. Like, they've got some areas that look like a Vietnam War era sort of, dense jungle, and they've got people in different sort of terrain that looks a bit different to that stuff that's come before. So I don't know.
But the real question is, will it have a battle royale mode?
And will that battle royale mode involve vehicular combat? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because that would be rad. That would be really good.
That would be cool.
What I'm actually wondering, and this kind of leads off another bit of news that we heard today, and whether we believe it or not, it's another matter, but apparently Gearbox have come out and said that there will be no reveal or news of Borderlands 3 at E3 this year. And Randy Pitchford, as Christian pointed out before the show, has been known to bullshit a bit about that sort of thing before. So
yeah,
we will see.
It'll probably be not. It won't be called Borderlands 3. It'll be called like 3 to Borderlands.
He'll be technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
Absolutely.
Or 3 to lands.
But hypothetically, if there isn't, and even if there is something at E3 about that this year, I wonder whether they're going to find themselves in a position where Bethesda is actually going to eat their lunch with the stuff that's coming out for Rage 2, because that really does look like a fairly strong competing property at this point. So,
I think that depends on whether Borderlands 3 is just Borderlands 2 with like new updates, or whether it's something big, new, and exciting. Because if it's just Borderlands 2 but with like more guns and another map and more characters, then I think Rage 2 will eat its lunch. But if Borderlands 3 ends up being big and shiny and new, then we'll have a real competition.
I think what people are hoping for is maybe something that fills the void of what Destiny 2 aspired to be and didn't quite reach for a lot of people. So like a game as a service kind of thing that actually does hit the mark. But I don't know. We'll see. It's exciting.
Speaking of new trailers, there was about just after recording last week, a trailer dropped for I think previously unannounced game called Atomic Heart, or if it was previously announced, it's definitely under the radar. So this is a new like first person BioShock-esque like action-y horror game set in like a Soviet alternate history Soviet 1960s 70s. Also gives me like Fallout vibes as well.
Yeah.
It's creepy run-down Soviet installations with robots and weird experiments and creepy music and that sort of thing. And the visuals of the trailer and the tone are really impressive. So yeah, anyone who hasn't seen that should definitely check out the Atomic Heart trailer. My personal take on it is that this developer, Mundfish, they, from what I can see, haven't developed any other games. They don't even have a wiki page. And the trailer contains very little actual gameplay. There's a few flashes where you see the first person characters' hands interacting and shooting and melee combat, but they're very, very quick cuts. And I kind of have a sense that if the game was as far along as it looks, or as impressive as it looks, then they would have focused more on the actual gameplay, especially being such a new developer. So I don't know. I've got a few reservations just because they've come out of nowhere with this, and there's some funny editing in the trailer, but it does look really cool. So what do you guys think?
I agree. It's cinematic weirdness at the moment, and not much more, but it's an exciting idea. I want to see more. I'm hoping it's followed up with some more substance at E3. Fingers crossed.
It kind of struck me as similar to what we saw when Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice came out last year, like one of those triple I titles, like the premium indie kind of productions. So, I think you're right to be suspicious, and especially in terms of game length and amount of content. I think that's probably going to be the telling thing. So, but yeah, I love the aesthetic. It looks really cool. So,
yeah. Another game it reminded me of is actually Metro as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Gave me some Metro vibes. And Metro's in the news again just today, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a few hours ago it was announced. Metro Exodus has been delayed till 2019. So not a huge surprise. I had quietly noted it down as one of my look forward tos for for this E3. But
have you guys played the other Metro games?
I've played a chunk of the first.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things. I bought the set on Steam. I've been meaning to get back to it. Like all the other first-person games I've been meaning to get back to.
If Ollie was here, he'd be raving about it, though. Ollie's a massive fan of the Metro games, so...
I loved the tense, terror of being out and about, running out of air filters with a crack in your vision, and there's a monster nearby, and you're trying to get back to safety, and you've got 3 bullets left. It's amazing for what it is.
I played both of the previous ones, but one thing I found with those games, they're really fun while you play them, but I can remember very little after the fact, as far as story goes. I can't remember any of the characters or what you were doing in those games, other than just the atmosphere
surviving.
And stuff. Yeah, and surviving. But I'm looking forward to Exodus when it finally comes out. Yes, and then there was another piece of news today coming out of Nintendo and Capcom, which is that Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate is coming to the Switch. So this is an HD console update for Monster Hunter Generations on the 3DS. So it's the second, I should say, HD Monster Hunter after World that came out this year. But this is coming exclusively to Switch. And one thing that I think is going to catch a lot of people by surprise is there's going to be a bunch of people who jump onto this game after playing Monster Hunter World. Yeah. And they're going to be shocked at how different it is and how much of a step back it is in many regards. It doesn't hold your hand as much as World does, and it is it's a HD up-res of a 3DS game. It's not like a exclusively developed console game. So I mean, it's still going to be amazing for the Monster Hunter diehards, but I'm already worrying for those people who've just played World who jump across to it.
Yeah, you won't have any of the scout flies and things to fall back on to make your pathfinding easy. Yeah. Well, I did hear that apparently this edition of Monster Hunter is a big one in terms of the number of monsters available. It's something like 200 or so of them. Is that accurate?
Because World had the smallest number of monsters of any mainline Monster Hunter game, and Generations originally had, I think, the largest, because as the title implies, it is pulling from all the different games, pulling from all the different mainline games, and so it has areas and monsters from every other Monster Hunter game. So it is kind of the ultimate package, but it's still rooted in the old version of Monster Hunter before the massive leap to World.
Yeah. Oh, well. I mean, more Monster Hunter's good. I think, that franchise is still doing great. So,
I think it's going to be great for those people who, I mean, the Monster Hunter diehards are going to love it. And anybody who does jump across from World who actually sticks with it, I think they'll have an awesome time with it. But there's going to be a few people who bounce off it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, speaking of things that have bounced a little bit, it looks like the publisher Boss Key Productions, makers of Radical Heights and the failed on release team shooter Lawbreakers.
Gunslinger, whatever it was. Yeah. With Lawbreakers, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, is pulling the pin, and they're going to be bouncing out of the video game industry. So Cliff Bleszinski, who people may remember from the role that he played in some of the earlier Gears of War games, fairly well-known publisher, has headed up the studio for a while. He's a notable public figure in the video games industry. He posted to his Twitter during the week to update everybody on what was happening. And I don't think it came as a huge surprise for a lot of people who sort of realised that Radical Heights did seem like a last-ditch swing at the fences to, try and gain an audience, because it came out as super, super early access. It was missing a lot of stuff. It really did look like a rapid fast follow of the battle royale genre that was very undercooked. So there would have been good reasons behind them trying to push that out when they did, and it seems like it was a last ditch attempt. It was pretty evident, I think. But it's sad things for everybody involved. Of course, nobody likes companies like this to wind up after having a couple of notable failures. All of the people employed at Boss Key, of course, are going to suffer. Though a lot of the other publishers have sort of reached out via social media and been sort of saying, we're hiring at the moment, so please check these positions out. So hopefully a bunch of them will find employment. But Cliff himself is going to take a break from the industry and step back from making video games for a while. And I don't know if he'll resurface at some point in the future. If he does, hopefully he's had a chance to kind of shake it off and might find his footing again in future. So yeah, we wish him the best of luck, and we'll see what the future holds. But one of those things, unfortunately.
Yes. What was pretty dirty is that apparently for a lot of the employees, they found out about it from his Twitter post. There was no internal memo going around beforehand. I saw a tweet from one employee who said that he heard about it because his 10-year-old daughter messaged him saying, like, are we going to be okay? And he was like, what? And because he found out about he was fired from Cliffy B's tweet. So that's pretty bad. But,
yeah, I mean, he's been a bit of a controversial figure. Some things you may not agree with that he's done. One other recent example is there was a bit of controversy recently with Epic Games apparently being accused by him of poaching his employees from Boss Key. But given that people at that company would have had an idea of what was happening and maybe that their jobs were not as stable as they should be, you can't blame them for looking at other opportunities. So
no,
you got to look out for number one at the end of the day. But anyway, Speaking of number one of the best consoles of all time, the Nintendo Entertainment System, or in my opinion anyway, the classic version of that is returning to store shelves in June. So anyone who missed out on the original onslaught for the Mini NES will be able to have another crack at getting one. So one of those people being me.
And me.
Yeah, absolutely. I was not super keen to sleep out in front of a store for one of those damn things. So yeah, but Nintendo.
I got the Super NES, but not the original one. So I'm keen to get it.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's interesting this time around though is that now we've seen what the Nintendo Online service is offering, and that some of the titles that you could only sort of play on NES back then are now going to be playable on the Switch with a few additional features. It takes a bit of the pressure off kind of trying to get this unit to play some of those old favorites. But I love the Mini SNES, and it's a quality product, and I think that this is too, despite the issues around the controller length and that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely try and pick one up. I'd like to play additional normal Metroid instead of just Super Metroid.
So. I mean, let's be honest. It's not about wanting to play the games, because you could just download an emulator and play them anytime. Yeah. It's about that classic Nintendo feel and that like collector's product. That's the real joy.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, they're good little machines. So
yeah.
And finally, Sony have given us a heads up about what they're going to cover this year at E3, which is pretty neat. They said it's going to be a little different. Some people are wondering if it's going to be the live on stage usual slog.
They won't have an orchestra. You heard it here first.
But they have stated they're focusing on 4 big titles for their presentation, and those are Death Stranding, Spider-Man, Last of Us 2, and Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited to hear more about all of those. So very good choices there. And they'll still have the third parties and indies little reels, I'm sure, like they did last year. But yeah, there's a bit of confirmation. They said no hardware announcements.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise.
Belay the PS5 rumors, essentially.
Yeah. It's too soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the PSVR 2 rumors.
Oh, yeah, true.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, one thing I was kind of hoping that they would announce this year, hardware-wise, would be an upgrade to the PlayStation Move controllers for use with their VR.
Yeah.
It's a shame that that's not on the books, apparently. But I guess they don't sell enough VR units to make it worthwhile investing in that, because it would be only for VR at this point. But yeah, I think they can do a lot better on that one. But
that might come in a package with a full new VR set down the road.
Yeah, I hope so. I was kind of surprised to see Death Stranding on this list, though. Like, I still, in the back of my mind, was thinking this game is like multiple years away, but maybe closer than we thought.
Oh, they want to keep the spice flowing. Like, you gotta like just flash it up there.
Yeah.
Keep people interested.
I think they just know that if they put Kojima on a stage, they're going to get people
Yes.
getting crazy. So
mad crazy applause and fandom.
I think this is the last year they can do it, though. Like, I'm thinking if they're focusing on it, then there better actually be like proper gameplay this time, and more information on like release date, that sort of thing, because it's been 3-4 years in a row now that they've been just wheeling Kojima out and having him wave.
Yeah.
The wording for these 4 titles are that they will feature exclusive looks and deep dives. So yeah, I expect they're all significantly along the production line to be able to do that. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I don't think we've seen
it's gonna be trippy, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen any gameplay footage of Death Stranding yet, unless the cutscene stuff that we've seen so far has been partially using the in-game engine.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who friggin' knows?
I'm sure that's all rendered in engine, the trailers, but yeah, whether or not it's gameplay. Oh, in fact, I think they said on the last trailer, they did say that some of the elements shown were gameplay. Like, there's a moment where the character like dies and goes into this weird like ocean, and he's got like an umbilical cord, and they said that has something to do with the death system in the game, that you don't properly die in the game. You do this, it's all cryptic, weird Kojima Del Toro stuff, but but they said that some of the things they've shown are like reflective of gameplay already. So
Interesting. I feel like I need to be drunk to fully appreciate that presentation.
Yeah.
We will see. Well, anyway, that leads us in neatly to our major topic of the week. So we're doing essentially tonight a pre-3 special for 2018. And what we mean by that is because essentially we don't know what's going to happen at E3 2018. We're going to be covering that in detail on the show in a month's time when it actually takes place. E3 2018, of course, is on the 12th to the 14th of June. But realistically, that's the main days that the show is open. The presentations start before that, like from about the 9th onwards, from when EA Play happens and everything else in the lead up. So we will be talking about it proper then. But in the meantime, we know a bit about what to expect. And we also have a bunch of stuff that got talked about at last year's E3 that we want to kind of look back on and see how those different publishers have delivered since they announced or showed those games off last year. So this is kind of our report card scoring, if you like, on each of those publishers to see, what expectations did they set and how did they deliver on those in the lead up to what's happening this year. So we're going to
Can I just start by saying very quickly, I found my notes because I take notes when I watch the E3 presentations. I wrote innovation at the top of the page. Ooh. I think because I was so sick of hearing that word.
Innovation.
Yes.
Innovation. It's so innovative.
Certainly was a buzzword, yeah. I might have to take a shot this year every time we hear the words battle royale or something of its.
Yeah. One of them will come up with like a fancy new way of calling it. Like, they won't call it battle royale. They'll call it like elimination royale game or something. Like, they'll have their own little spin on it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. I'm sick of it. It's too much. Yeah. If you haven't got one out by now, it's probably too late. But anyway. All right. So each of us are sort of, just going to kick off with one of the major presentations that happened last year. We'll skip over PC because that's not linked to a single publisher. So most of the others we'll cover. So what have we got up first? Christian, do you want to kick us off with what EA had to say last year?
Yeah, sure. So quickly run through EA. They didn't announce a whole bunch of unexpected games last year. So they had the typical Madden, NFL, FIFA 18.
Sports
they had a
balls.
new all the sports ones, and they had an NBA Live and Need for Speed, which was I think just new content for the Need for Speed game. I don't follow that too closely, so I'm not so sure. The biggest things they talked about last year were Star Wars Battlefront 2, which we all know the story of that. It did come out as promised, but it came out to much controversy with their loot box and sort of pay to win system, grind to win system. But, you can't fault them. It did come out when they said it would come out, so they get points there. And they also talked about Anthem. They revealed Anthem at the EA conference and then went in depth in the Microsoft conference. But that's where EA lose some points, because while that announcement was really cool and the game is exciting, this is the new BioWare game, they have delayed it until 2019 now. And that was kind of their big brand new IP. So I take a lot of points off them for that being delayed. And they also showed off A Way Out as well, which of course came out and you guys played through and you enjoyed that.
So good.
Yeah, I think we enjoyed it a bit more than a lot of people did by the look of it. But I don't know. I thought it was still a pretty decent game. It wasn't, revolutionary, but it was good fun for sure.
Yeah. So if I was going to give EA a grade, I would stick a D on them actually for the Anthem, because I think that was their big game and it has been delayed. So I wasn't not too happy about that. I'm shaking my finger at EA for last year. So
yeah. What do you think, Jam? How would you rate EA? Anything that you think stands out?
Amongst the other presentations, I mean, they did okay. They followed through a bunch, but yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
I can't remember how excited I got back then. A Way Out's the standout for me.
Yeah, I think the thing about that as well is that it was something that we didn't know about before that conference, so it was a nice surprise and one that actually got delivered on reasonably quickly. But yeah, no, I'm with Christian. I think the only reason they don't get an F is because of A Way Out, essentially, because they had a shocking year, real bad. They really didn't deliver on a lot.
A Way Out was shown off more at the Game Awards as well, if we recall. I can't remember how much detail they actually went into it at E3.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go.
I didn't realise we were actually scoring, so I was not prepared.
I just decided to give my score.
Our scores mean very little in the grand scheme of things, but to ourselves.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to totally stick it to these publishers by giving them
definitely.
Scores. Yeah.
All right. So next up was Microsoft. They had a pretty big presentation. I'd forgotten how many things they'd gone through. They revealed, as was long anticipated, the Project Scorpio, which we now know is Xbox One X, which has come out.
Still a fucking dumb name, but anyway.
It's they like the X's.
Yeah.
It looks like a 14-year-old's battle tag.
It does. It really does.
The next one they'll call Xbox One X 69.
Yeah,
I know.
420.
We mentioned earlier, Metro Exodus was shown off. It looked very pretty, but it's just been announced it's been delayed till next year. That's not too bad. I don't know that I was truly expecting it this year, but I'm curious to see if we're going to see a little more at the upcoming E3. State of Decay 2 was shown off, and that's out. Is that next week?
Yeah,
I think it's out next week. I am mad keen for that game, so can't report on that yet, but I'm so stoked. The Minecraft Better Together updates. Now, I don't know that the 4K update that they announced has gone live.
No, that has not. The Better Together's gone live for all platforms except for Switch. But yeah, 4K
and I
still
don't think they've got, I could be wrong, but I don't think they've got their huge, uber massive servers going properly yet.
Yeah, they do, but they're
ones.
third-party ones, so it's not...
it's a bit different. So that's a bit like disappointing because, everyone was super excited with Minecraft getting bought out, that all these things would happen, and there appears to have been hiccups, I guess. I don't know. What else? Sea of Thieves definitely came out. And it's fun, and it's cool, and it's gimmicky, but, I don't know how the community's going. I haven't heard a lot about it recently. I think I saw a post on Reddit today, someone asking one of the super rare chests to be worth more money because it's like worse than a gold chicken or something.
Yeah, apparently they had one of their big content updates happening this week, but they had to roll it back, so there were some problems with it. So,
Oh no. Well, fingers crossed. I mean, it'd be nice if they get like a little spotlight at E3 and announce some proper roadmap-y stuff that people have been keen to hear about some more because, that game has so much potential. But, I mean, I've gone on at length about what I want them to add to that game. What else? Cuphead. That was a winner. I've not played it, but according to you guys...
Hang on, what? You've not played Cuphead yet?
No.
I haven't either.
Honestly shocked by that.
Oh, really?
No.
Holy shit.
Well, according to you, Luke and Mimo and Ollie, it's very good.
Yeah, I haven't finished it yet, but it's a really amazing game for sure.
Ah, well, yeah, that was very well received. So that's like mad props there. Everyone was looking forward to that. Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Yeah,
Luke,
amazing.
you adored.
Absolutely amazing.
You adored. Mm-hmm. Middle Earth: Shadow of War. I don't know. Some people enjoyed it.
That was a thing.
Yeah,
I didn't play it.
I
like seeing Bruce.
The only reason why I didn't cop more shit at the time, I think, was because Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of stole its thunder when the loot box controversy started up. So,
yeah, that's interesting. Ori and the Will of the Wisp was teased. I've not heard anything further about that. There was no promises. It was very early, I think, concept sort of cinematics. But I want to hear more, next month. And Anthem. They went into a little more about Anthem, which looked really cool. But again, I want to know more. Hasn't happened.
Yeah.
What else? Is there anything else from Microsoft that you guys...
Crackdown 3?
Crackdown 3. Oh,
they gave an announced release date for November 7th for Crackdown 3, which ended up being delayed until unspecified 2018. And that was... Crackdown 3 was originally going to come out in 2016 as well. It was part of the initial Xbox One reveal. So that game's been delayed a bunch of times now. And I'm still skeptical whether it's going to come out this year even. So
yeah,
that's the game that was supposed to take advantage of all their massive cloud computing for the destructible cities, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Oh, and Dragon Ball FighterZ Z was announced then. That's out.
Yeah,
right?
that's out.
I've seen some really good community fandom behind that game.
Yeah, that game's took all of the steam out of, or the wind out of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite sales. So it's kind of taken the spot that Marvel had in the fighting game scene.
Yeah, I think it came out at a good time too because people were still justifiably salty after the Street Fighter 5 debacle and ready for a decent fighting game. So I think the only other thing that's, competed in recent times has been Injustice 2. So they, had a reasonably captive market, which is good.
Yeah. So I'd rate Microsoft from last year. They've done pretty good at coming through with the things they announced. There's been some obvious delays, but probably half expected. What do you guys think? Do you have scores? Are there scores?
I do.
Very important.
I gave them a C because of the Crackdown delay, the Metroid delay, and the Anthem delay. So
yeah,
but I mean the Anthem one's kind of on EA.
Master.
I'm just like, it's E3. Don't lie to me. Just if you're not sure, then just be quiet. So I don't know.
Yeah,
what about you, Luke?
I'm going to give him a C-. I'm in much the same boat. I think that, we know that now that PS4 is outselling Xbox One, 2-1 and then some in most areas of the world. And there is a reason why. It's because they have really failed to gain traction with anything significant in the last 12 months. It's absolutely obvious. The biggest success they've had that I can see on that entire list is probably Cuphead. And that's really saying something because that's not a AAA release. That's a small indie game that, got a huge amount of public love because of the, unique artsy style of it. But their big hitters are not out yet. We're not going to see Metro for a while. We're not going to see Crackdown, before E3. Middle Earth Shadow of War didn't, hit success like they hoped it would, and Sea of Thieves certainly didn't either. So yeah, I mean, Microsoft definitely have some ground to make up, and they're really going to have to, get people on side this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they come out with. But I don't know. They've got some work to do. That's for friggin' sure.
So harsh. Mm-hmm. Gosh.
Yep, they know it too. They absolutely know it. They're
oh yeah. Tough love.
We will see. All right, well, let's move on to a slightly different performance then. We had Bethesda last year, and they had their very themed presentation around Bethesda Land. So they had, a bunch of stuff for Fallout and Doom VR, or in the case of Doom, VFR, which, from what I understand, doesn't mean anything other than virtual fucking reality. So props to them. So
I mean,
does it really
you must assume because it's not been directly announced. It is, right?
It is totally that. Yeah, they did it in the same way.
Like BFG.
BFG, yeah.
Big fucking gun.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's cool. They actually asked them directly about it in another interview somewhere later on in the year, and that's essentially what they said. So, they had some interesting ones last year, like nothing massive like a Skyrim, apart from Wolfenstein 2, which a lot of people were very excited excited for and looking
That
forward
was
to.
pretty massive.
Yeah, and
it was a great reveal too.
Oh, the trailer, yeah. The trailer definitely wowed a lot of people. It caught us by surprise, and it was very different in its tone. So that was great. And, one thing that Bethesda have sort of committed to do with just about all of the games they talk about at E3 is to have stuff that is within a fairly close release window. And they've hit the nail on the head pretty well with that. So Wolfenstein 2 did come out within a few months of E3. The Evil Within 2, I think, was just coming out at E3 or around then. So that was pretty close to the mark.
That was creepy.
Yeah, that was good. Even Within 2 is one of those games that I didn't get around to playing, but I'm still keen to because public reception for it was reasonably decent without sort of blowing the door off the hinges. So
much better than the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of good press around that. Dishonored Death of the Outsider expansion was another big one. I am not a huge Dishonored guy. I know Ollie is, so he could probably speak more to that, but that seemed to be received reasonably well. But yeah, most of the other stuff was kind of small, like some stuff for Elder Scrolls, Legends, Skyrim's for Switch. It's like the 7th or 8th port of that game. Quake Champions, I think, is probably the worst thing in the list of stuff that they showed that doesn't really have any, presence in the press these days at all. But I don't know, Bethesda pick the things that they're good at, and they tend to focus in on them and really, make a show of it. So I think they did pretty well. I left the Bethesda presentation feeling very positive about what they're offering for the following year, and from what I can see, they've delivered on pretty much all of it reasonably well without having any earth-shaking sort of big titles. So, I don't know, I'd kind of, based on effort and result, I'm thinking maybe like a B plus A minus for Bethesda. I'm going to give them an A minus, actually. I think they actually have done pretty well.
Oh.
I gave them an A because my scoring system wasn't based on like how hyped I was. It was based on their integrity in their announcements and how well they stuck to them. So
true.
That was my take on it. And Bethesda, from what I could see, stuck to everything. I couldn't find a fault with their announcements. So I gave them an A.
Did good.
So you're going to rely on their word this year then?
Yeah.
A little more than some others.
Yeah.
Well, next up was Ubisoft. And this was one of my more favourite ones of last year.
Oh, some key moments in the E3 memes, that's for sure.
They're always a good source.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Assassin's Creed Origins, that was very well received. It came out.
The only thing I remember about that preview, though, and this is probably a stain on Ubisoft's presentation, is the fact that they showed that footage of someone playing the game over the shoulder. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Don't even remember. How do you remember that?
I just remember how bad it was. But anyway, yeah, go on.
I don't remember that at all. Mario and Rabbids.
Yes.
Did anyone play that here?
Yes. My boys own it, and that game kicks ass. It's really good.
That's another great success. Mm-hmm. Great success for them. South Park, the new South Park game, it's out. I have played like the first half an hour. It's my own bad, but apparently it's quite enjoyable, as was the first. I need to play that. I remember just laughing like an idiot through the whole first game. One of the ones that's not out yet, but they did showcase a little, Skull and Bones.
Hell yeah.
So that was their pirates.
My Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't heard much about that recently. I'm expecting to next month. But that was a little more, it was less gimmicky than Sea of Thieves.
I hope that they're holding on to that one and learning from what's going on at the moment when it comes to launching.
Yeah, see, it's really interesting because all of the cries for content can play right into their hands, really.
Oh, yes.
Pay attention and say, oh, look, especially if they rock up at E3 and say, we've got this, we've got that.
Yeah.
Not being smarmy about it, but just straight up, here's what you can do in this game.
I don't know,
here are all the multitude of things.
I would be absolutely smarmy about it personally.
No, hell no. That's not the high road, Luke.
But it's a pirate game.
I'd be smarmy.
You take the low road.
It's like actual loot.
Yeah.
A boat you can actually customize.
A world that you can explore, not just a couple of spots of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to more of that. And we weren't expecting it to be out yet. I don't think.
No.
It was.
No.
They did mention
it was
fall
definitely going to be later this year.
2018. So, yeah, it could be anywhere in the next few months.
It probably will be delayed. I anticipate that'll be delayed, but hasn't officially been yet.
Yeah. Far Cry 5 was showcased, which has come out to excellent reviews too. A lot of people having a lot of fun with the game and liking the way they've changed it up from some of the monotony of previous Far Cries.
It's done real good. And it wasn't delayed too long either, which is good.
Yeah. And then Beyond Good and Evil 2 which was the first look I had at the game. I didn't know anything about these games previously, which looked awesome. That's not out yet. I'm keen to see more of that too. That just looked like a wonderfully written game. Just from that little snippet.
I think it was one of the trailers of the show for sure in terms of how surprised people were. And I remember at the time there was a lot of jokes around, we're going to see this game sometime in 2025. But there's been a feature on a couple of sites recently with actual gameplay footage in development. So I'm just like, wow, maybe this is actually coming along. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that would be neat. I like how Ubisoft end their shows with a bit of a surprise every year. That's neat. I remember when they did it with Division and I was just blown away. So, yeah. I rate Ubisoft quite highly. Everything that promised to come out is out. Yeah? I'm just looking back through the list.
I think so.
Yeah, a couple of things that aren't out, they were just sort of in development. And some very well-received games. I think it was a really good year for them. What's your scores?
Yeah, look, I'd give Ubisoft probably a solid B+ for last year, actually. I think that they did pretty good.
I don't know how you rate them below Bethesda.
Look, only because I think that there are a few notable things that we haven't seen yet in terms of like Skull and Bones, especially in The Crew 2 was another one. I also would rate them slightly below Bethesda because Ubisoft still do show trailers for things that are a good degree off in the future, being Beyond Good and Evil 2 as well. And while I do like that, I think that it kind of puts them in a difficult position because now there's an expectation that we're going to hear more about that game this year and it still may be quite a way off. So you can't really say that they've delivered on what they've shown in the same way. But look, they did really well. Like, I'm saying a B+. That's still a really high rating. I think they've done well. There's just some stuff in the presentation that I wasn't that fussed about. Like
What about you, Christian?
I agree with Luke's score and his reasoning, especially with regards to The Crew and Skull and Bones and Beyond Good and Evil and setting and like nothing they've said other than the Crew 2 release has been proven false. But I feel like just their Skull and Bones announcement was a bit thinner than they actually presented. And Beyond Good and Evil 2 is, a bit speculative, it was exciting, but it's still quite a bit of hot air at the moment, so we'll see.
They have delivered some great stuff, though. Assassin's Creed Origins, reportedly awesome. Mario & Rabbids kicks ass.
Like I say, B+ is a good score.
Absolutely. So we will see. I think Ubisoft's got some good stuff this year, though. I'm looking forward to what they've got on offer.
Yes, me too.
All right, well, let's kick into the big one now. So Sony, of course, had a pretty massive year at E3 last year. So they, of course, were getting ready for the big Destiny 2 launch. So there was a lot of their exclusive content that they chatted about there. We saw the first big presentation for Detroit Become Human. As well as God of War, which I think might have made its debut at E3 last year if it wasn't Gamescom prior to that. Or was it Gamescom earlier in the year? It was one of the two. But we know how the God of War story has kind of gone since then, so that's definitely a big tick. They had Moss, of course, which sort of captured our imaginations with how VR could actually reach some pretty impressive heights if done well. Yeah, a bunch of other bits and pieces. Monster Hunter World, of course. Days Gone got delayed, so that's maybe a bit of a strike against them. We did have the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC for the Frozen Wilds. Uncharted Lost Legacy, which, oh my god, that was awesome. Ni no Kuni 2 was another one. I was, quite wowed by that presentation, and the game, by all reports, is pretty decent, and it has come out, so that's good. Yeah. Remastered Shadow of the Colossus, of course, another solid entry, and Spider-Man. What a way to finish their show. So I think there's a bunch of stuff with Sony that we kind of knew was not going to be out prior to the end of the year, like Spider-Man being one of them. We hoped we'd maybe see it around March, April, but I think most of us realised that wasn't going to be the case, that it would come out prior to the next E3. But look, I think they had a pretty solid year. And the sales figures are definitely showing that they're doing extremely well. They've got a very diverse lineup. They've got a lot of indie stuff that people actually care about, as well as a lot of big titles that have landed and done exceedingly well. So, but that all being said, still in terms of what they presented and what they delivered on, I think it's still a little bit of a mixed bag. So not glowing overall, but still very, very good. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, you didn't mention the most important game that was announced. That's Knack 2. The Knack is back.
Knick-knack, paddywhack.
I'm kidding, of course. No, I mean, I think I agree for the most part. The biggest games they talked about of that bunch, I'd say, were the God of War, Days Gone, Horizon, new content, and Spider-Man, and
Monster Hunter World.
Yeah,
Monster Hunter World, definitely. And I mean, none of that. They haven't sort of delayed any of that or shelved any of that or anything. So it was pretty decent showing. I think the only thing from that list that they actually delayed was Ni no Kuni 2. And that was supposed to come out late last year, but ended up coming out early this year.
Yeah, a couple of minor games. Tropico 6 we haven't seen yet. So that's another one. Until Dawn, The Inpatient. I can't remember if that came out or not. So
I think that did come out, but I can't recall exactly.
Yeah, not entirely sure. There's a few things.
Yeah, I was going to give... I've got Sony as a B or a B+. Yeah, because there were... Yeah.
I would agree.
I think they're on par with Ubisoft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'd probably put Ubisoft just very slightly higher, but they're probably in a better position to be able to deliver on a shorter range of content than Sony's absolute monolithic list of things to hit. So, it's to be expected.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, still pretty good. Very good year for Sony. And, I think we can always expect pretty decent things from Sony at the moment in their market-leading position. So, all right. Well, Christian, on to the big one.
Yeah, so the last of the big publishers was Nintendo. Now, Nintendo tend to play E3 pretty safely. They're not a company who's known for making outlandish announcements that they don't follow up on or having significant delays, with a couple of small exceptions. So the big things that they talked about last year were the Zelda Breath of the Wild expansions, which came out as promised, the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for Switch, the Yoshi for Switch. They announced a new Yoshi game for 2018, which we haven't heard any more details of yet, I believe. There was a Kirby announcement too, which ended up being Kirby Star Allies, which did come out and was well received by Kirby fans. There are a few more ports
by Kirby
for Switch.
fans specifically. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Kirby doesn't have the widest appeal of franchises, but there were a few ports that they announced, like Rocket League and Pokken Tournament, Fire Emblem Warriors, and then the bigger sort of forward-reaching announcements were a brief mention of a mainline Pokemon game in development for the Switch. And Metroid Prime 4 was a huge one too.
Yeah, boy.
We haven't heard more information on either of those yet, but the expectation wasn't set that we would. They were both very, this is just a name or this is just a logo. So I don't hold anything against Nintendo for not showing us more on those yet. And then they showed off Super Mario Odyssey, of course. That ended up being an amazing game and releasing on time. So, yeah, I think that Nintendo last year had a good showing, and I can't find any fault with their announcements as far as release dates or broken promises go. So I slap an A on Nintendo. What do you guys think?
Jam, you go first. What do you reckon?
I'm bad with the Nintendo announcements because I'm not a Nintendo player, so I tend to gloss over them. I think they did pretty well. It sounds like they did pretty well, but I don't have any first-hand experience.
I think that Nintendo's presentation overall was probably higher rated than I'd rate them on their delivery in the year following, because they had all of the stuff that speaks to me. Games that I care about, new Metroid announcement, holy shit, on that alone I'd be happy to give them an A+. Yeah, like one of the things that surprised me about their announcements last year is that they very much, during their main presentation, glossed over the Metroid Samus Returns remake for 3DS, and then they had that during the Treehouse presentations, and that went on to become like one of their big things for the year, as far as, certainly the biggest thing on 3DS. So I don't know if they missed a beat there or if that was intentional, but that kind of boosts their delivery to expectations in my mind, because that was one that didn't really have huge expectations of after the show, which ended up being absolutely awesome for them throughout the year. So, I
think what they did there was their presentation was they only for Switch. They only talked about Switch games.
True.
They didn't talk about any 3DS games. Whether or not that was a mistake, I think that was what they were going for.
No, I agree. I think that was probably the right move at the time, because there was a lot of concern around the library for Switch actually supporting the player base at that time. They really needed to show that, yes, we've got the games to back this up. And I don't think that there will be any doubt of that leading into E3 this year, because the library on Switch has absolutely grown to a massive size in the year between. So I think the only thing people are going to be really holding them to task on is some of the key, large first-party titles that people are waiting on for, so like your Pokemons and your Metroids and stuff like that. So, yeah, look, I'm curious to see how this year goes. I do hope that they've kind of lied to us a little bit in terms of what they are saying they're going to show and what they actually will reveal. And there's some of those longer reaching things that I think that they do need to show some progress on if they don't release sort of date information on them. Like, to have the Metroid Prime 4 reveal last year and then not mention it at all this year would be weird and a mistake, I think. Same for the Pokemon on Switch. I think they probably need to have something to show or speak about at least. But yeah, they've got to be careful on a couple of those points. I think they did well. I'd rate them at I'd probably give them an A- as well. Or B plus A-. Yeah, probably around that mark. I don't think it was the best presentation of the show, but it was close to. I think they did excellently. And they've had a very solid year. So, not really any huge complaints. I think Nintendo are doing fine. So, yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps up the big ones. So that gives us a bit of an idea and a recap on what happened last year and what we can expect this year. So that's kind of the thing we need to close on. So do we have any key predictions for things that, in the good ship E3 that have not leaked out already? Because there's been quite a bit of stuff in the last few weeks that we now know about. So who do you think are going to be the standouts this year? Who do you think really needs to come out swinging? And are there any key things that you think we'll see? So, Christian,
of those I was just going to jump in.
You go, jump in, Jam.
Yeah, you jump in.
I think of those we haven't already covered because they were discussed last year. Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yeah.
Better see some stuff.
My body is ready.
Because I want to see some stuff. What else have I written?
Which presentation do you think that falls under, though? Like, out of all of the players here?
I have no idea. I don't care. I just want to see it.
Microsoft is my prediction.
You reckon Microsoft?
I think it'll be a multi-platform release, but I think they'll partner with Microsoft for some exclusive content or something.
Yeah.
Because they've done that. Did that with Witcher 2. So
true.
There's some line of communication there that I think Microsoft will be begging for.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, even if it is a multi-platform release, the company that gets to show it off at E3, I think a lot of people in the public, in their mind, they associate it with that company. So it's a huge boon for them to do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like Anthem was the same thing. Anthem's going to be on PS4 as well, of course, but having it at the Microsoft conference was a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm also curious to see what Bethesda are going to do this year and if they're going to surprise us with a new sequel to one of their things.
Yep.
Say Elder Scrolls?
Yeah, potentially. Like, that'd be cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. Everything else we've sort of already touched on.
Okay. All right, Christian, you jump in next if you like.
So I'll just rattle off a few things. So my first isn't a prediction as much as it is a hopeful expectation, and that's that Ghosts of Tsushima will be awesome. I'm really hoping that when they blow the doors off that it's going to be a wicked open world Ronin mystical adventure game. So I'm super excited for that. I also think Nintendo will have a big a surprise reveal for either their Pokemon game or their Metroid Prime 4. Not both, but I think one of them there'll be more information on. Possibly an interview with one of the developers talking about their intention with the game, at least, even if it's not gameplay. There'll be something more with one of those games.
That's a good way to do it.
I think that EA will show off their new Battlefield game a lot. That's definitely going to be happening. I think that it's going to be World War II setting, which seems to be the running rumor based on a few teasers that EA have put out in Morse code and a couple of internal rumors. So I think it'll be World War II, and it's going to have a battle royale mode. And I actually think that it'll be my favorite battle royale game because I love Battlefield and I like World War II games. So I think that it's going to be the one that I get into the most. I think Ubisoft will have an Assassin's tease. I don't think that there'll be a new Assassin's Creed game out this year, but I think they'll tease the next one. And I also think that they'll announce Watch Dogs 2, which was on that list of upcoming games from Canadian Walmart.
Watch Dogs 3, you mean? Two's out already.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 3, I mean, of course. Last of Us 2 will get a release date, I predict. And I think it could be this year.
I hope so.
Yeah. Death Stranding will definitely have a lot of gameplay. I think Nintendo will also have Bayonetta 3 gameplay, or they'll show off Bayonetta 3 more.
Oh, true.
That they haven't said they're going to. Yeah. I do think that Bethesda will tease the next Elder Scrolls game, but I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be a 2020 release. But I think they might have the balls to tease it already. And I just want to say it's crazy that we're in a year where we can talk about games coming out in 2020 or even further, because that sounds like the future.
Yeah.
I agree.
2020 is not around the corner. 2020 is like when Mega Man is set. So,
oh, true.
Yeah. My other prediction, okay, so this is for the Sony conference, and I think that From Software last year teased a game that they were calling Shadows Die Twice. I think that
was at
Shadows
the Game
Die
Awards
Twice,
that first showed, if I recall correctly.
Game Awards. Yes, yeah, you're right. It was Game Awards. I think they're going to have more details on that, and it's going to be Tenchu.
Really?
Because I think that's my prediction, because From Software did develop Tenchu, and it had kind of blood and mystical stuff in it.
You
so
just
I
got
reckon,
my hopes up so bad.
I reckon Shadows Die Twice is like a code name for Tenchu. So
I'm so excited now.
I'm going to agree with you on one thing with regards to that. I think that we will find a lot more out about what that is at E3 this year, but I think you're wrong. I don't think it's Tenchu. I think it's Bloodborne 2.
no.
No, don't say that.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely another contender. I think that I think if it was Bloodborne 2, then they wouldn't have played it so close to the chest. I think they might have shown off that it was Bloodborne 2 more directly, but I don't know. You certainly could be right there. That's just my take on it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, all right. Well, just whizzing down the list quickly on my thoughts. I think EA are going to play it very, very carefully this year, because they've got a lot of ground to make up on their disastrous last year. But I think the EA conference will be almost all Anthem all the time. They're going to bank on that one hard, I think, and then sort of pad it with their usual sporting lineup. So, they've got
to have the sports ball.
Yeah, exactly. They've got an interesting one.
Very important sports ball.
I think, Bethesda, I'm very looking forward to their conference. I think there's going to be some standouts there. I think that they're going to absolutely blow the doors off with the Rage 2 stuff. I think it's going to be more of what we've seen this last week. I think they've not shown everything yet. They're probably holding back on some cool footage and other fun stuff with regards to that. So I'd like to see some gameplay, because it certainly looks like there's enough gameplay available for them to go into a bit of detail of what that game's actually going to be. I don't expect we're going to see anything for Elder Scrolls, as much as people think that, conspiracy theory that could be on the horizon. I would be shocked as hell if they came out with anything about Doom 2. I think that's probably at least a year away. But what I do think we're going to get is information about a new IP, and I think it's going to be sci-fi in nature. So that's my prediction, because there'll be something else.
Do you think it's going to be a shooter? Or an RPG? Or?
I think it will be something more of the RPG ilk. I don't think it'll be shooter. I don't think it'll be sort of like your... what was the game they had out last year? Prey. I don't think it'll be like the Bioshock-esque style thing. I think it'll be more RPG-ish, but I do think that it will be something they have played their cards very close to their chest, and they're holding off on. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they kind of partly orchestrated the Rage 2 leak to kind of, draw attention away from maybe this other thing that they're waiting to announce. That would be a Bethesda-esque, strategy to call, throw people off. But I don't know. We'll see. They've got some stuff.
I do think that they'll have something brand new. I think that they'll have another shooter that they show off, and my reasoning for that is that I think that the Rage 2 announcement prior to E3 was intentional, even without the leak, and I think that they were intentionally showing off Rage 2 before E3 so that they can give their new game its own sort of moment. I think that Rage 2 is having its moment now. It'll still be in their conference, and they'll show off more stuff, but because they've already revealed it, it'll be another reveal during E3 that, and I think it'll be another shooter. Okay,
yeah, it would be interesting. I wouldn't, have a problem with that at all. I think that they've done fantastic work with that in recent years, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Bethesda, one I'm looking forward to probably the most next to Nintendo. So Ubisoft, I think we're going to see a lot of Division 2. I think we're going to see, a bit more Beyond Good and Evil 2, which will be a little surprising because that one's still potentially a way out. I really hope that they give us a whole bunch of Skull and Bones. That would be great to actually see something coming out for that, and I think it's the right time for them to do it as well. Watch Dogs 3. I'm not super excited about that, but I think that they could do some interesting things with it. The sort of technology playground, the Silicon Valley kind of setting that game takes place in. If they bank down heavily on some of the shit of recent years, like all of the new sort of cryptocurrencies and blockchain stuff going on, and invasion of privacy stuff that's really come to its head with Facebook in the news recently, there's definitely ripe material for exploitation in a game of that nature if they want to poke fun at it and have a bit of a good time. But I don't know, we'll see. That could be very interesting.
I predict Watch Dogs 3 will move into the future more. It'll be more of a sci-fi setting.
Oh, yeah, that's
my prediction.
Probably a good idea too. At some point, they kind of have to do that, I think, if they're going to continue doing it every year or two. Interesting. Sony, God knows what Sony's doing this year. I think they'll have a bunch of stuff. I think that some of it will be, the big four that they've already mentioned are going to be at their show. I think they'll have a whole bunch of third-party stuff that we know nothing about at this point. I'm expecting some more surprises from them. What I'm curious about this year is how much they focus on VR titles and how much of that they leave to their separate Sony event later in the year. Because they do get the luxury of kind of splitting that up a bit that a lot of the other publishers don't. I mean, Nintendo can because they hold their directs at any goddamn time they like during the year, and they can own the news cycle when that happens. But I don't know. I think Sony are a bit more orchestrated in the way that they have their two big news drops throughout the year, and maybe a third if you count Gamescom. So yeah, Nintendo are the interesting one. I think Nintendo are actually at risk this year of maybe not wowing as much as they need to at this point, because there's a lot of stuff on the Switch now, and I think that they have the danger of the Switch kind of being overloaded with mediocrity instead of having big heavy hitters, because they're not going to have their Mario Odyssey this year. They're not going to have Zelda. They need something that is a big first party title, and I think that Smash is maybe not enough. So we will see about that. We'll see some more about that Splatoon DLC, though, the single-player DLC. That'll be an interesting one to see what's actually going on with that. But yeah, we've also got the Square Enix stuff as well. So that's, we haven't seen a Square Prezzo at E3 for a while. So that's going to have some fun new stuff. So
forgot about that.
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah. Take the place of maybe some of the other bits and pieces. But yeah, I don't know. Microsoft's got some ground to make up. God knows what's going on with them this year. I think that, no Borderlands has made me really do a double take today, if that is true, because I thought that of all of the stuff that Microsoft could actually come out swinging with, doing some sort of exclusive deal with Gearbox for a big Borderlands preview at E3 was one of the things I maybe banked on. But yeah, if that's not the case, what else have they got? I don't know. We will see. So yeah, I don't know. Lots of stuff to look forward to. I'm getting excited. We're still a month out, but we'll be hearing about this for the next month, so we might as well ride the wave. It's just one of those things. But hopefully our expectations, in the meantime, a few more of them are met. And if not, then hopefully we get some stuff to look forward to late in the year that's not going to have us banking on everything being like a 2020, 2021, 2022 release. So, but Cyberpunk.
Just give me Tenchu.
Just give me Cyberpunk.
Give me Tenchu and I'll be happy.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Or what's the number one thing that you want to hear about at E3? Like, if you had to pick one thing that you desire above all else, is it Tenchu for you,
The
Christian?
Last of Us 2.
Last of Us 2 for you, Jen?
It is Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk?
It is Cyberpunk.
Yeah, for me it's Cyberpunk and Metroid, but I don't want Metroid to be undercooked, so I'm happy for that to wait a little bit longer. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, that is a show, guys. That's a good chunk of stuff to chat about tonight, and we can wrap it there. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and if you want to give us your own conspiracy theories about E3, I think we'd all three love to hear about it, because some people out there are coming up with some pretty interesting and innovative stuff that has not necessarily been hitting the major news cycle. So let's hear all of the dirty stuff that you think is going to go on. So send your ideas into mail@partyloaded.com, or of course, if you're a bit more modern and don't want to do the email thing, you can hit us up on Twitter @PartyLoadedShow, on Facebook, just search for Party Loaded. Catch us when we're streaming on Twitch, so that's twitch.tv/partyloaded, and we also have content on YouTube, which you can find under the header Channel Endgame, so that's youtube.com/Channel Endgame. And that is all of our contacts. Guys, what's going on this week? What have you got on the list of things to play and stuff?
I'm actually going to be jumping into BattleTech in the coming week.
Ooh.
It's a game that I backed on Kickstarter yonks ago, and it's finally come out. So I've got my key for that. So I'm going to be, seeing how the new BattleTech game is performing. And then other than that, just Magic the Gathering and perhaps jumping back into Yakuza 0.
Oh, yes. Nice. Jam, what about you?
I don't know. My gaming's been really sporadic lately. Lots of bits and pieces. I'm sure the usuals: Minecraft, Overwatch, PUBG. What else have I been playing? I can't even remember, man.
I would like to drag you in for a bit more Destiny stuff if we can.
Yeah, more Destiny.
There's nothing stopping us from playing that mission on stream still, so we can go in and do it. So.
Oh yeah, while you run around, Mr. Know-it-all, like, come over here, guys.
Oh, like it's a pretty straightforward scenario.
Apparently GTA 5's getting some new content too. They always got new content. There's some stuff in there I haven't tried yet. I don't know. And there's a list that's as long as my arm of first person single player games that I want to play.
Yeah.
Spoiled for choice.
I feel like I should be getting back to Yakuza 6 this week. I feel like what's actually going to happen is that I'm going to end up playing a whole bunch of Minecraft because I've just been bitten by that again last night. So, fucking Minecraft, man. It just always gets its teeth in me and just won't let go. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to Detroit in a couple of weeks. So, that'll break me away with some new content goodness at the very least. But, I don't know. It will be an interesting week for sure. But you can catch us again, same time again next week, of course, for another great helping of video game funsies. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Jam. And we'll see you all next week.
Oh, thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.